What was the strangest punishment your parents gave you? When I was 12, I had 2 cats and an English Mastiff. Anyways, one week I didn't practice the piano as much as I was supposed to, so I was grounded from petting or hugging both the English Mastiff and any of the cats. My mom actually followed me around to make sure I didn't. I still had to take care of them though. My evil older sister made me a proposition my 6-year-old brain couldn't resist. She said, "Smell my butt for a quarter." I said okay, took a whiff, and of course, she ripped a big fart in my face. I ran to my dad, wailing, "Jones aid smell my butt for a quarter." I did, and she farted in my face. Dad marches to Joan. "Did you tell him to smell your butt for a quarter?" "Yes." "Did he smell your butt?" "Yes." "Pay him the quarter." I felt justice was served. When me and my siblings were kids, we would always pick flowers out of the neighbor's garden. Our parents tried everything to get us to stop, but spankings and groundings never did the trick. Inevitably, we would end up back in the neighbor's garden picking her flowers. So finally my mom came down on us like never before. We came home, showing off all these flowers we picked, and she nearly started crying. "I'm going to miss you all so much," she said. "Why? What's going to happen?" She proceeded to inform us that the flowers we picked from the neighbor's yard were alien plants from Jupiter. Their seeds flew through space and landed on Earth, where they sprouted into harmless looking plants. But if they were ever picked by a human, it would infect that human and turn them into a plant. Every single one of those flowers we were holding in our hands used to be a little kid just like us, who got turned into a flower by the alien plant seeds. We all started crying. We didn't want to turn into plants. We didn't know. Wasn't there anything that could be done? Our mom said there was still a slim chance we could be saved. We weren't allowed to go outside for the next 3 days, because if we stood in the grass for more than a moment, we would start to take root. We also had to take an ice cold shower, right now, to wash off any of the alien pollen. So we threw the flowers away, stripped, and got in the freezing cold shower, desperately trying to scrub the alien plant pollen from our skin so we wouldn't turn into plants. While we were in there, our mom plucked some petals from the flowers and threw them into the shower with us, making it look like we were already shedding flower petals. So all 3 of us were standing in the shower, crying and shivering and sobbing. When we were out of the shower, she bundled us up in our PJs and put us all to bed. When she kissed us goodnight, she told each of us that she loved us, and if we turned into plants overnight, she would put each of us in a flower pot of our favorite color and keep us on the windowsill in the living room. And she would always love us. We all cried ourselves to sleep, didn't turn into plants, and never picked the neighbor's flowers again. My neighbor's toddler wouldn't stop picking our flowers, so I convinced him that flowers were alive and when you picked them they were going to flower heaven. I would pretend that I was talking to them, that they all had different names like Janet and Daniel. Sometimes I would step out of my house and see him whispering to them. He never picked them after that, though. When I was 6, my grandpa got annoyed at me for doing something. I don't remember what, so he threatened to put cornstarch down my underpants to give me any itchy butt crack for the rest of the day. Whatever it was I was doing, I stopped immediately. I was being loud and wild, like little kids do. My dad asked me to be quiet repeatedly, which I promptly ignored. Fed up with my crap, he made me sit on the front porch and yell at every car that drove by. Suddenly, more than anything else in the world, I wanted to be completely silent. My mom once, tired of my only wanting pizza, said she was going to force me to only eat pizza for breakfast, lunch and dinner until I was sick of it. The morning of day 15, my mom cracked when I asked for pizza. Lol. People don't get that you can't break a kid that way. Kids are famous for wanting just one thing. I think you have to be at least like 15 or so before that starts working. If we misbehaved, my stepdad would make us stay up and watch old reruns of Lawrence Welk. We hated it. Lawrence Welk. I've never heard of that show, but holy crap, it sounds boring. During my teen years, if my brother or I did something wrong, my dad would take our iPods, play our favorite songs, and force us to listen as he loudly whistled to him and slapped his thighs to the beat. It was torture. This is hilarious. I'm imagining some angsty music like My Chemical Romance being played and the dad angrily whistling every note while slapping his thighs, glaring the whole time. I came home drunk as a teenager and my dad took me to the police station to have them keep me overnight. A friend of mine had timeout, which meant face the corner of 2 walls while kneeling on uncooked rice so it digs into your knees. Seems sadistic. I'm not sure if this counts as a punishment. I was 14ish years old and supposed to be in bed sleeping. I decided I was bored and didn't feel like sleeping, so I went downstairs and told my dad, "Dad, I'm bored. I can't sleep." So he told me pull out a chair. I did. Then stand on the chair. I did. Then touch the ceiling. I did. Then he went back to reading his book and ignored me. I was confused and probably stood there for a solid minute before I finally mustered up the nerve to ask him why I was standing on a chair touching the ceiling. He told me that I could continue doing that or I could go back to bed. I went back to bed. I didn't want to eat my green beans, so my father said I either eat them or wear them. I called his bluff. Not a bluff. With a Ziploc baggie and some twine, I wore those green beans the rest of the night around my neck. They still laugh at that one. All your parents sound pretty creative and funny. It's only strange to the person being punished. If I slammed a door as a kid, I was to open and close it 20 times. Nicely. It actually worked pretty well as I hated looking like an idiot. After an argument with mom, I slammed the car door when I got out. I too was made to open and close it correctly 10x. Right in front of my high school with everyone watching. Awful. One time I lied to my mom about something really dumb and obvious. I was 9 or so at the time. After she scolded me, she called me into the kitchen to apologize and tell me all was forgiven and I should have some ice cream. I immediately said yes, I would love some. So she scooped out a huge bowl. She then asked if I would like some sugar added to the top. And of course, as a kid I thought more sugar would only make it more satisfying. So she added it. She gave me the bowl and I took a bite into the most sugar covered spoonful I could get. Turns out, it wasn't sugar, it was salt. Then she said, "See how lying hurts people?" My tiny trust was forever broken. It did teach me a lesson though. My mom used to threaten to send my sisters and I to Rancho Cucamonga if we weren't behaving, which we thought was some terrible island for bad children. Turns out it's just a crappy town in SoCal with a large outdoor mall. My younger siblings and I were fighting. My dad made all of us get into one large church and walk around the block together. We were like 13, 9 and 8. We have framed pictures of our walk of shame in the living room. I am picturing the Belcher siblings getting punished by Linda. When I was in 3rd grade, my teacher wrote a note to my parents to tell them that when we were reading aloud in class I never knew the place when it was my time to read, because I was always reading ahead. Everybody else in my class reads so slow. I'd read ahead a paragraph, then I'd finish the page, then I'd read just the next page, and then I would be lost. This was in my social studies textbook. So my parents grounded me from going to the library. ? My sisters said just go anyway. They won't know, which opened my eyes to entirely new possibilities in the world. When we were visiting relatives in a large city when I was about 3, I told my father that I wanted a new dad because he was mean. He put me in the car and took me down to the dad store, which was really a dive bar where all of the homeless drunks hang out. He told me to get out and pick a new dad. Turns out, I liked the dad I had after all. My mum used to threaten to put us in the cupboard with the troll that lived in there. We heard the troll once singing his troll song, so believed it was in there. We found out as adults it was my dad through the wall. Mean. +1 for your dad's trolling skills. They caught me stealing chocolate out of the cabinets, so they made me sit down and eat like 10 bags of chocolate at once. I love chocolate. I believe their plan was to make me eat so much chocolate I would get sick or feel miserable and never want to eat chocolate again, or something like that. I don't really know. I could see doing this with Baker's chocolate. My dad tried to ground me for the rest of the year for being late to school. On the first day, "Dad, you drove us here." Another one of my mom's bright ideas. One day she got sick of my younger 2 siblings yelling at each other, so she told them they could fight but they had to sing their words. It ended pretty quickly. My future kids will love this. Used to argue with my sister over the TV channel. Whenever my mom got tired of it she screamed, "If you don't stop that crap right now I will throw that freaking TV right out the freaking window." I always thought it was just a threat. She sure proved me wrong. Nice, mine threw my TV out the window too. When I was 8 my dad once drove me to the orphanage because I was acting up and told me to get out. I settled down. When I got caught with weed my mom made me go to a family Halloween party instead of my friend's party, dressed up as Clifford the big red dog. When I was a lazy 12-year-old boy, I was on the couch watching TV when my mother came into the room with the kitchen trash. She was angry. "This is the last time I'm going to tell you to take out the trash." "Well, good," I replied, because I'm sick of hearing about it. For that little bit of sass, I was made to go to all of her friends and my friends' houses, like 20 of them, and forced to collect the trash from every room. It was humiliating but in retrospect pretty funny. I'm just going to take a note here, for I have a sassy 10-year-old on garbage duty. I was a bookworm growing up and my parents believed all that reading was bad for my eyes. If I read too much, they'd ground me by forcing me to watch ABC's TGI Friday lineup with them. Dad claimed it would help my social skills more than all those books since I could talk Full House in the cafeteria come Monday. I got grounded from reading because it was the only thing that really bothered me. My mom would be like, "That's it, you're in trouble. No books for 2 weeks." My friends all thought it was weird but I was upset. I'm a librarian now. One time my dad was making me study for a class in his office when I wanted to sleep and I was giving him a hard time, so at one point he was fed up and instinctively in a threatening manner said, "Do you want to go to bed?" And I was like, "Here's my chance," so I said ugh fine and did. He realized like a half hour later but I was already sleeping lol. I love this one. I just picture you dad scratching his head later thinking, "Huh, well, that didn't quite go as planned." Strangest being ineffective would be removing the internet cable from my computer. I knew the built-in wireless card was worth it. My mom changed the password on the user account. I figured out how to boot it to safe mode so I could use the administrator account with no password. Now I'm an IT. When I was about 14 or 15 my mom found out I'd been watching P. She forced me to sit on her bed and watch the P with her while she explained the dangers of S and how to not to treat a woman. I was in boxers and t-shirt. I didn't know how to control my erections and just seeing a nipple would get me hard. We were watching a full-on hardcore porno. I could only hide my boner so well for so long. I can't decide if this is clever or fricked up. One time, about 10 years ago, I was banned from all electronics except the Wii for 3 weeks. Why the Wii was the exception I still don't understand. Consequently, I became really awesome at Guitar Hero. I once punished my son by changing his Xbox One account privileges so he was limited to playing only EC games, the rating below E. Not my parents but my teacher. The class was being rowdy so the teacher said, "If you guys don't be quiet I won't let you take the quiz." We were like, "Haha, you're kidding." She said, "Wanna try me being the smartass I was?" I said yes. And she didn't let me take the quiz and I had to get a note signed by my parents saying what I did. I saw a teacher once put the class clown, the disruptive, douchebag kind, back to his place by giving extra homework to everyone except class clown, who had no homework to do at all. Every student in the class had to write "thank you, class clown name" on each pages of their homeworks. Kid stopped after that, of course. Ooh, I've got a good one for this. I got caught watching P a couple of times as a kid, and the last time I ever got caught my dad made me write out the entirety of Homer's Iliad by hand in a bunch of notebooks. I wasn't allowed to use any electronics, play outside, or eat sweets until I finished copying it down. I was about 12 or 13, and it took me almost 2 weeks and 8 or 9 full college ruled notebooks to finish. It wasn't followed through with, but my sister and I were fighting over Legos and my mom said if we didn't stop, she'd melt them all in a pot then throw them away. I was also told that if I was bad, I'd have to live in the basement with 2-ton Tony, my secret brother. My parents also told me I had an older sister before me, and she was bad so they got rid of her. My mother got this one passed on to her from my grandmother. When we annoyed her too much, She threatened having us go to bed without socks on. We were afraid by such a harsh threat and stopped immediately, but we never wore socks to bed anyways. We took way longer to figure it out than I'd like to admit. Haha, back when I played soccer at around 13/14 or so, my coach would make us run 10 laps around the field, saying if you weren't the first 10 to finish you'd have to do another 10 laps. There were only 10 of us. I was the only one who noticed this and tried to tell everyone that they were being duped, but they never believed me. No Teletubbies bath towel for a month. I was enraged. I was about 4 when I did something, can't remember what, to merit the punishment of go to bed without supper. I exclaimed to my mother in the morning, I'm alive because, ya know, if you don't eat you'll die. I had been taught some earlier occasion. Mum felt terrible realizing I thought I had received a death sentence for some little kid crap. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.